It's no bullshit. It's all truth.
But they are who we thought they were. And we let them off the hook.
It's time to get straight to the point. Here's Adam Saga.
What's up, everybody? Welcome into another episode of the Straight to the Point podcast. I believe this is episode 7 already. Today we're going to go a little bit outside the city of Chicago. We've been talking a lot of Chicago. NBA is getting ready to kick off. We got a big story brewing in the NBA from a city where I just moved from. So we're going to hit on that, and that is, of course, the Rockets and James Harden. What happens with that whole situation? Woj and Ramona Shelburne came out with a little bit of a new development. Shams Charania came up with a new development that was almost immediately shot down by another team. So we'll get into that a little bit, and I'll tell you what I'm thinking, what teams make a lot of sense. The preferred teams that James Harden has mentioned he would like to be traded to. We'll get into that in just 1 second. We'll also hit on NFL. Weird, fun / bad game last night between the Chargers and Raiders. Justin Herbert looks like the real deal. One thing I want to hit on real fast is, where does he fit with these younger quarterbacks in the NFL? I had a buddy text me last night, hey, is Justin Herbert going to be a top 5 quarterback? Does he look like he could be a top 5 quarterback? And while I agree he's played his ass off, broke the record for rookie touchdown passes, and the way he's playing, I still have some reservations. I still think that there is a group of young quarterbacks that will end up being ahead of him, including a guy that is not even yet in the NFL. So we'll get into that in just a little while. But let's start here with James Harden and the Rockets. Of course, he's asked for a trade. They've gone through all this change. Daryl Morey, the GM, left after weeks of speculation that he could leave. Well, then he did. There's a lot of, Mike D'Antoni left the day after the season ended. There's a lot of talk. Is D'Antoni going to be back? Is D'Antoni going to be back? Well, they lost their last game to the Lakers. They lose 4-1 to the Lakers. Basically, he expected a contract from Tillman Fertitta, contract offer at least, by the plane ride home. He thought he would have a call saying, hey, we want you back. Here's what we're offering, from Tillman Fertitta to his agent. He didn't get that. He got on the plane. He did not get that. By the time he returned, by the time the team's plane landed back in Houston, his agent had let the Rockets know that he was done. He sent out a letter thanking the Houston Rockets organization and saying that he had moved on, and now he has moved on to the Brooklyn Nets, where he is Steve Nash's top assistant. He's going to help Steve Nash become a good head coach in the NBA. Now he's got to deal with Kyrie Irving, and that's a whole different story. I wish Kyrie would just shut the hell up. And I'm glad Charles Barkley came out and said something about Kyrie Irving. He just sounds like an idiot. Time and time again when he talks, he sounds like an idiot. But anyways, back to James Harden. So the two initial teams that James Harden said he wanted to be traded to, Brooklyn Nets, Philadelphia 76ers. Okay, those make sense. Daryl Morey's in Philly. You go team up with Kyrie and KD and form your little super team there in Brooklyn. That all makes sense. Things didn't really work out right away like he maybe thought they would. Then he added the Clippers and the Heat. Well, the Heat is the team that is very interesting to me. But here's the thing. Does Pat Riley want to do that? Does he see a team that went to the Eastern Conference Finals last year, maybe just in a weird season? And I say Eastern Conference Finals. They went to the NBA Finals and lost to the Lakers. Does he see a team that he thinks can get back? Or does he see a team that thinks, you know what, we got Jimmy, we got Bam, two really, really good players, all-star players. Do we need a James to add to those two to say, now we'll get over the top in the East? Now we're better than the Celtics. Now we're better than the Bucks. Now we're better than the Raptors or the Nets or the 76ers. Does James Harden do that for the Heat? And while I think he does Pat Riley want to bring James Harden in? Remember, Here's the thing about James Harden when it comes to bringing him into your team. Yes, he is a great player, one of the best offensive players in NBA history, scoring-wise, passing-wise. He can do everything offensively. Yes, I think when I watch him, his defense is very, very ugly. I mean, everybody's like, oh my gosh, but look at his post defense. Like, that is the dumbest argument in the world when it comes to James Harden. This isn't Anthony Davis. This isn't Rudy Gobert. This is James Harden, and everybody points to his post defense to say he's a good defender. Get the hell out of here. How often is James Harden defending in the post? We're in a game where the Rockets shoot 63s a game. How often is James Harden defending in the post, and how much of a difference does that make? Teams are shooting a lot of threes against them because they're keeping up with the threes that the Rockets shoot. Don't give me the crap that he's a good defender because he can defend in the post. That's just, it's the dumbest take. And if you bring that to me, then you should be ashamed. If you watch him play straight up defense against anybody, he doesn't even try and stay in front of anybody. He doesn't. It's a joke watching him. Then there's also the fact of, what have we seen over the last few years with James Harden? Since he's been in Houston, really. He got to Houston, showed he had all this offensive potential. Then it was, okay, what can you get me to get us over the top? I want Dwight Howard. They go get Dwight Howard. Well, you know what, that didn't work. Get him out of here. Okay, so they get him out of here. And then it's, we want this guy, and we want this guy, and we want this guy. You know what, let's trade a bunch to get Chris Paul. Okay, well, that almost worked, except for an injury to Chris Paul, which shouldn't shock anybody because he gets injured. Well, that didn't work after 2 years, so, okay, let's change things. Let's trade Chris Paul and a ton of first-round picks, is what Daryl Morey had to give up, to go get Russ Westbrook. Well, that didn't work out. You lose 4-1 to the Lakers in the second round. And then we come out, D'Antoni leaves, Daryl Morey leaves, Russ says he wants traded. He gets traded to Washington to bring in Russ Westbrook Jr. and John Wall. I mean, they're the same exact player. Don't shoot the three and like to drive and like to have ball movement. Well, that just, I mean, how does that work? You bring in DeMarcus Cousins. So, essentially what I'm saying is James Harden is never satisfied with the roster. Maybe a guy like Pat Riley, you know, he says, yeah, we're going to bring you to Miami. You're not going to control anything here. You're part of our plan. I have a plan. Me and Eric Spoelstra have a plan to make this a championship roster. You're not going to demand, I want this guy, or I want that guy, or I want this guy, or I want that guy. That's not happening here. Maybe Pat Riley is the guy. Because if he goes to Philly, we've already seen Daryl Morey give in to James Harden. Which is going to then in turn piss off Joel Embiid. Because the only way he's going to Philly is if they trade Ben Simmons. And we'll get into that in a second. The only reason... but that is going to piss off Joel Embiid because he feels like he's a star. So there's so many layers to this James Harden trade. And what other teams make sense that say, yeah, we can bring James here and we're going to get better. We're going to get better in terms of now we can go win a championship. He's not going to Denver. He's not going to Utah. He's not going to Dallas. In the East, he's not going to Milwaukee. I mean, I'm trying to think of other teams that have players that say, okay, you can team him up. He's not going to Boston. What team is it that's going to give up what is necessary to get James Harden, yet still have the roster to compete for an NBA title? Because that's the reason you're getting James Harden. He's 31. You're not getting him for, oh, you know what, he's the first piece of our rebuild, and then we're going to get this guy. Well, you don't know if you're going to get that guy. He's got to be the piece that comes in like the Miami Heat and say, okay, this pushes us over the top. Yeah, we had to give up some young pieces that we really, really liked and some draft picks. But we feel like James Harden makes up for that to pair with Jimmy Butler and Bam Adebayo. So the trade I've talked about, if Miami is interested, and we don't know 100% if they are or not, is Harden to Miami for Tyler Hero, Duncan Robinson, Precious Achua, and then for salary reasons, Kelly Olynyk and Andre Iguodala. So those 5 players, and then you tack on 2 first-round draft picks for James Harden. That, I think, unless, and I'm going to get into this in 1 second, unless another team steps forward with a big-time all-star caliber right now player that is young, it doesn't make sense. That's the deal that makes sense in my head. Because, again, you look around. Lakers aren't trading for him. Clippers, Paul George just signed an extension. He's not leaving. They don't have the other pieces to trade to get James Harden. The Phoenix Suns aren't trading Devin Booker and anything else to get James Harden there. I mean, you just look around the landscape. It's just not happening. I mean, is Minnesota going to trade you a bunch of stuff? No. I mean, is Minnesota going to trade you D'Angelo Russell and Anthony Edwards for James Harden? I don't think so. I mean, it would at least be somewhat interesting. But the team that can change everything and make this I won't say a bidding war, but make it interesting is the Philadelphia 76ers, because they have Ben Simmons. If you're the Rockets, Ben Simmons is the guy you go after. But what would Daryl give up outside of that? Shams Charania reported that they had made Ben Simmons available in some of their packages they've offered. Daryl Morey came right out after that and said, that is not true. We will not be trading Ben Simmons for James Harden or anybody. He is a core piece to this team. That's what he said a while back. Listen, I don't know what the 76ers are going to do. I don't know what the Rockets are going to do. But James Harden is obviously available, and we're trying to figure out what teams make sense. Well, in my opinion, there's not a lot of teams that make sense. It's a tough fit for any team, any organization. So, I mean, plus, you also got to remember, the NBA season starts, what, this weekend? Starts next week sometime? I don't know the exact date, but, okay, I just pulled up the list of the teams. Are the Knicks going to make a move and trade R.J. Barrett? And, okay, well, that maybe works, but again, who are they pairing him with to say, okay, now we're a title contender with the season less than a week away? I just think it's too tough. To make this move. I think they did settle on a trade deadline, which I believe is March 23rd, which obviously is a lot later, but the season's starting later. You just look at through these teams. Okay, the Lakers no, the Jazz no, the Pelicans, interesting, but I don't think James wants to go play in New Orleans. James and Zion, I mean, you'd have to give up Brandon Ingram, I assume, but he just signed his extension. I mean, I don't see that happening. The Grizzlies, no, you're not getting Ja Morant. Well, you'd like to team up Ja Morant and James Harden. They both, again, like to play with the ball. That's the thing. That's what else makes sense about the Heat. Harden can go there and dominate the ball. Jimmy's a very good off-ball player in offense. Bam Adebayo is a good off-the-ball defender. Well, offensive player, excuse me. Yeah, he's a great defender too, as is Jimmy. But offensively, they both can play off the ball very well. So I think the fit there makes sense. It's just, does Pat Riley want to bring in a guy like James Harden to the Heat organization? I don't think so. But anyways, going back, I don't think the Kings make the move. I don't think, I said Dallas, no. Golden State was reportedly interested, especially after Klay Thompson went down with the Achilles. I don't see that happening. They took James Wiseman in the draft. I don't see it happening with the Warriors. Reportedly, that interest went away after some talking. I don't see the Nuggets. The Blazers, no. I mean, do the Blazers want to swap Dame and Harden? No. Timberwolves, I already talked about. Clippers, no. Paul George extension. The Phoenix Suns, no. And the Spurs, no. They don't have the pieces. So that's the West. The East, you got the Bucks, no. The Pacers, interesting, but he's not going to want to go to Indianapolis and play. I mean, it's not his. Listen, James is also looking out for his life, his outside the basketball life. Indianapolis is not his kind of town. It's not his kind of town. Washington, no. They just traded for Russ. Miami, obviously, is the team. Boston, no. They have Jaylen Brown. They have Jason Tatum. I don't think they make that move to bring in James Harden. The Orlando Magic, no. Charlotte Hornets, no. Although LaMelo's looked really good. Man, his passing is ridiculous. Exactly why I wanted the Bulls to get him. The Atlanta Hawks, no. Trade back for Clint Capella, no. Detroit Pistons, unless you want 15 power forwards, no. Cleveland, no. The Knicks, I just talked about. R.J. Barrett. Would they trade Mitchell Robinson? Kevin Knox has been a bust so far, so I doubt that. The Brooklyn Nets, obviously, on the list. The Sixers on the list. The Raptors, no. The Chicago Bulls, I mean, I guess they could make an interesting offer if you want youth. You have the young all-star caliber player in Zach LaVine. You have a young guard in Kobe White. I don't know if Bulls would trade both those guys. You have Lauri Markkanen and Wendell Carter Jr., both underperforming so far in their young NBA careers. You have Otto Porter to offset any salary if you need be, if say LaVine were to stay. I just don't see that being a fit. Obviously from the area of Chicago, I think the Bulls like the fact that Arturas Karnisovas comes in. He did not help build the Denver Nuggets in that way. They built, in terms of depth, a bunch of really, really good players. No great. I mean, Jokic is great. I take that back. But they didn't try and add all-stars around him. And I don't want to. I'm saying this wrong, but they loved what Jamal Murray brought. They loved what Gary Harris brought. Then they, guys like Will Barton and Michael Porter Jr. they got in the draft after he fell. So there's a lot of good things that Denver did, and they didn't bring in a guy like that. That's why I don't see Arturas Karnisovas doing that with the Bulls. I think he sees Zach LaVine as a guy that has the potential to score 27-plus points. Kobe White is a guy that can score 23, 24, maybe 25-plus points. And then if they can get these young bigs to come along, if Markkanen and Wendell Carter Jr. can come along nicely, I mean, I know it's just 3 preseason games, but Patrick Williams looks like he can at least play at this level. He's going to give you good minutes. And he's shown the ability to be able to move around and guard different players. Who did they play the other night? I was watching the game. Oh, they played the Thunder, and Patrick Williams was guarding Shai Gilgeous-Alexander and doing a pretty nice job on him. So, I mean, we saw what Shai Gilgeous-Alexander could do against the Rockets last year. He gave them some fits. Well, You got a 6'8", small forward / power forward, who we heard could guard all 5 positions, but he's out there doing it. He's guarding Shai Gilgeous-Alexander and doing a solid job at it. I know it's just preseason and things are going to change once the season gets going, but you like what you have from him, so you don't want to trade him at 19. The Bulls started the game with LaVine at 25, Markkanen at 23, Wendell Carter Jr. at 21, Kobe White at 20, Patrick Williams at 19. So they were very young in their starting lineup. And so they have pieces to, I think, at least make it interesting. But again, just getting James Harden on that team, you're taking away Zach LaVine. Does that make them an NBA title contender? No. In my opinion, no, it doesn't. Even if you can keep Kobe White and one of Markkanen, Wendell Carter Jr., and even, say, Patrick Williams, it doesn't make you an NBA title contender in the next 3 years while Harden's contract is going. So, no, I don't see the Bulls as a fit either. Really, when I come down to this, it's 3 teams, and it's 3 of his preferred teams. It's the Nets, it's the Sixers, it's the Heat. The Nets, you're going to get Spencer Dinwiddie, Karis LeVert, maybe Jarrett Allen too. I don't know if they'd get all 3. And then draft picks. What does that do for you if you're Raphael Stone? If you're Steven Silas, does that sway enough to send Harden to the Nets? In my opinion, it does not. If you're the Rockets and you're looking at the 76ers, Ben Simmons has to be included. The question is, what will Daryl give up outside of Ben Simmons if that deal is to be made to get Harden there? I don't think a whole lot. And I think the Rockets are looking for this big monster package that I don't think they're going to get. But Ben Simmons would be the best player that they can get. And then you talk about the Heat package I mentioned earlier with Tyler Hero, Duncan Robinson, who, and let's just look at the way the Rockets have played this preseason already. One of their games against the Bulls, they had to shoot over 63s. I watched the first half, and they were jacking threes like it was the only shot that was available. Okay, well, if you go trade James Harden, we know like to shoot threes, and you get back Tyler Hero, who made 39% of his threes last year as a rookie who is growing into a very good-looking player. He has the potential to be an all-star caliber player. That's the difference. With Ben Simmons, you're getting the all-star caliber player right now. Tyler Hero, you're getting a guy that has that potential and can come in, start at shooting guard right away, and you let him roll. So if you get him shooting about 39% from 3, you get Duncan Robinson, who shot almost 45% from 3. This kid's a sniper. He is a sniper. I've been talking about this kid for a few years now because I'm a Michigan fan. I watched him for his years at Michigan, and you could see the great form. You could see the quick release. You could see everything that was there. It's just, you know what, college sometimes doesn't, it's starting to get better, but it doesn't fit a guy like Duncan Robinson because the offenses aren't as spread out. The defense isn't as lax, and college defense is crazy. I mean, it's balls to the wall defense. Even though the scoring's higher, it's just a lot of, you're running at guys. You don't see much, I'm going to run them off the three-point line in the NBA. It's, all right, your turn to shoot, you shoot. Well, Duncan Robinson worked on his shot, and he got a hell of a lot better. And now he's one of the best three-pointer shooters in the league. So you get him to Houston that fits this new style of Steven Silas. Not the new style, because that's what they've been doing, but he fits what Steven Silas likes to do. And then you get the young rookie, first-round pick, Precious Achiuwa out of Memphis. Big, long kid that can shoot a little bit and will take some time to develop, but has the skill set to play in this modern NBA. Excuse me. And then you get a couple draft picks. And then you bring in Kelly Olynyk and maybe trade him for a second-round pick. And Andre Iguodala, maybe you just buy out and let him go wherever he wants. I mean, that's a pretty solid package. But I just don't think at this time it's going to be enough for the Rockets. So we'll see what happens there. But it's going to be interesting. So that's the whole Houston Rockets, James Harden situation that is kind of everybody's talking about in the NBA as we get ready to start the season here next week sometime. All right, let's switch over to Justin Herbert. Last night looked really good again. He's had a lot of really good games. He did have the stinker against the Patriots where they lost 45-0. But I don't count that against him. That's Bill Belichick against a rookie quarterback. That history has shown us that that's not a fair fight. Bill Belichick does things that have rookie quarterbacks being like, what the hell is going on out here? I've never seen anything like this. That's why Bill Belichick is still Bill Belichick. He's still the greatest coach of all time. No matter if he's having to deal with Cam Newton's sorry-ass playing quarterback and losing a bunch of players to opt-outs and just changing his team over a little bit, he's still Bill Belichick. He's still really damn good. So, yeah, last night the Chargers end up winning, which, you know, if you're a Chargers fan, you probably would have rather than seen them lose just due to the fact of draft position. So it hurts him there, but Justin Herbert was 22 of 32, 314 yards, 2 touchdowns, no picks. I thought he played really, really well, and he's a guy that you look at and you say, okay, this guy, you know, where would I take him? If I was redrafting and I'm starting an organization right now, if I'm starting a franchise, like you do in Madden, you start franchise mode. Well, okay, where would he rank in terms of guys that you're looking at for the next 5-6 years? Let's say 5 years. You know, do you trust that Aaron Rodgers wants to play 5 more years? No, so I take him out of it. I take Drew Brees. I take Tom Brady. I take those type of guys out. Then I put in the younger guys who, you know, number one, Patrick Mahomes. Clear as day, I think everybody would say that. There's no other quarterback in the league that anybody is taking for the next 5 years. Because even if you're looking past that, it's still Patrick Mahomes. Number 2 for me right now would be Russ Wilson. Number 3, it's interesting. There's a few guys. It's really tough. I look at Deshaun Watson. I look at Lamar Jackson. I look at Josh Allen. I mean, Kyler Murray. I'm trying to go through in my head like where. So those 4 would be my next 4. And remember, it has no Aaron Rodgers, has no Drew Brees. So those would be my next 4. There's nobody in there I'm forgetting. I'd probably go Deshaun 3. Lamar 4. Josh Allen 5. Kyler 6. Would be, you know, my next in line. Man, it's crazy what happened to Carson Wentz just a year ago. I'd been saying Carson Wentz would be up in this list. Now, not so much. And then you got, where does Matthew Stafford rank? That guy, he can make all the throws. He's just been with the Detroit Lions. I mean, it's a burden he bears, and he would be up there. Derek Carr, no. You know who would be next if I'm starting a franchise after Kyler Murray would be Trevor Lawrence. And he may end up being higher after 1 year. You ask me this again in a year, I may be saying Trevor Lawrence is 2. It's going to be tough if he's playing for the Jets, but this kid has all the talent in the world, and he's going to be really, really damn good. And then you got Justin Fields. Whereas, Zach Wilson isn't going to be in the top 10, but Justin Fields could sneak in, or he's going to be right outside the top 10. He has a ton of talent. And while I still question is Justin Fields going to be QB2 in this draft, maybe Zach Wilson jumps ahead of him, Once all the studying's done, I do predict that it will be Justin Fields, but we are going to hear about that. It's that. I think everyone's going to say, we'll hear the question of, can Fields overtake Lawrence 1? That'll get shut down really quick, and then we're going to hear, can Wilson overtake Fields at 2 for being QB2 in this upcoming draft? Joe Burrow would be right there after Trevor Lawrence. I would take Trevor Lawrence over Joe Burrow knowing what we know today. Even taking out the injury, I still would have taken Trevor Lawrence. Then I would have, you're taking Big Ben out, you're taking Phillip Rivers out. That's probably where I'd have Stafford after Joe Burrow. And then you're getting into Tua. You're getting into Justin Herbert. You're getting into, does Jared Goff maybe is on that level. I'm trying to make sure I didn't forget anybody, just looking through a quick list. You got guys who are the bust right now, and Trubisky, and Dwayne Haskins, and Sam Darnold, and they're down the list, obviously. Drew Lock is another guy. They're down the list. Jimmy Garoppolo is an interesting one. But in my opinion, you can't really take it. Just the injuries. He had one really good year last year. Helped lead the Niners to the Super Bowl, and they should have won the game. He wasn't good in the fourth quarter, and neither was Kyle Shanahan. So what I'm trying to get at is with Herbert, my buddy asked, is he a top 5 quarterback, or could he be a top 5 quarterback? I don't think he'll ever be a top 5 quarterback. He's going to put up some crazy numbers, but I still think we're going to have better quarterbacks with Burrow and Trevor and Watson and obviously Mahomes, Lamar Jackson, Josh Allen. I think he can get to those guys' level, but it's going to be tough. I don't know that consistently he can be at that level, whereas those guys will be there all the time. I still really like Tua. I think Tua's still working his way back. He's shown the ability to throw the ball very, very nicely, just like Herbert has. It's just a different style. Herbert's the cannon. Herbert's the rocket. Tua's the finesse lefty that, just floats the ball up in a fade to the corner of the end zone. Or, it's a different style. So if you like Herbert more than Tua, based off what you've seen, I get it. You probably like the Brett Favre type quarterback, the guy that just fires it in there. So it's all about personal preference. I'm not saying anybody's wrong. I just don't see Justin Herbert being a top 5 quarterback. But he can be a very good quarterback that the Chargers have for a very long time. If you go from, Drew Brees was there, but then Phillip came and took over, and you go from Phillip to Justin Herbert, that could be really, really good. That could be another, 15-year guy that you're not having to search for. So it's very interesting. This draft is going to be interesting. You're going to have, in my opinion, 5 first-round quarterbacks. You've got Trevor number 1, Trevor Lawrence. And right now, I'd go Justin Fields 2, Zach Wilson out of BYU 3, Trey Lance, the kid from North Dakota State that only played 1 game this year because his team opted out, is 4. I personally would have Mac Jones 5. And I think all 5 of those guys go in the first round. Then you're looking at Kyle Trask. I think kind of is in his own little tier at 6. Him and Mac Jones, you could argue, are on the same tier. So what I'll do is I'll put them on their tier together, but I'd separate them a little bit. So your top 4 are your top 4. I think those guys will go top 10. And then you're going to have Mac Jones, and then a little bit of a drop to Kyle Trask in the second round. And then you'll have guys like Jamie Newman, who opted out from Georgia and Wake Forest. You have Desmond Ridder from Cincinnati. He's got a cannon. He can move. He's an interesting guy. He just has big-time mental mistakes, but he's an interesting guy. You have Kenny Pickett from Pittsburgh. I know I'm forgetting somebody in there probably. Shane Buechele has a big arm. So there's definitely going to be an interesting draft this year. I do think there'll be 5 quarterbacks taken with Trevor Lawrence obviously going to 1. Yeah, I would have Justin Fields 2. I'd have Zach Wilson on BYU 3. I'd have Trey Lance 4 out of North Dakota State. Then I'd have a drop-off, and then I'd have Mac Jones and Kyle Trask on the same level. I'd have Jones a little bit higher than Trask. I think Trask is a second-round pick, where I think Jones will be a first-round pick. And then you got guys like Jamie Newman out of Georgia who opted out. You have Desmond Ridder out of Cincinnati, who's an interesting guy. I've watched him a bunch this year. He looks really good. Strong arm, can move, likes to run, kind of fits this new style of the NFL. You got guys like Kenny Pickett out of Pittsburgh. You've got Shane Buechele out of SMU. I know I'm forgetting someone else. I don't have the list in front of me. So there are going to be some interesting names in this draft. But again, where do you hit on NFL quarterbacks? It's the first round. Maybe you get a guy in the second round. Maybe you get lucky and hit Russell Wilson. But how many quarterbacks do you see in the NFL right now that were first-round picks? It's a ton of them. Maybe they're the first pick in the second round. I think Derek Carr was the first pick in the second round. So you just look at all these guys around the league. They're all first-round picks. Majority. So it's just something to pay attention to as we wind this NFL season down. We're going to figure out the draft order, because then once the draft order, at least the the non-playoff teams get their order figured out, then we start seeing mock drafts. Then we start figuring out, okay, Jets got 0-16. They get Trevor Lawrence. Do they win a game and the Jags lose out and the Jags jump them and the Jags get Trevor Lawrence? If you're Trevor Lawrence, that's what you want. But you're going to get the Jags and the Jets 1-2 in a certain way. And right now it'd be Jets 1, Jags 2. And it'd be Trevor Lawrence going 1. And I believe it'll be Justin Fields going 2. So it's going to be an interesting year for quarterbacks. A lot can change. A lot of movement can happen, just like last offseason. So we'll pay attention and get a lot more into that as we continue on. All right. I want to just say thank you to everybody who listens, anybody who follows and subscribes to the show. You can find the show on YouTube. You can find it on Spotify. You can find it on Apple, on the Apple Podcast. You can find it on Spreaker. You can find it on YouTube. I don't know if I said YouTube already. You can find it on pretty much any podcast app. Just search Straight to the Point with Adam Sager, and you will find it. And you can listen to all our episodes. You can subscribe and hit the button that says, let me know when each episode comes out, because I want to listen. That's what I think everybody that listens to this show should do. All right, guys, I just want to say thank you again, and you can follow me on Twitter at Adam G. Sager. Hit me up anytime you have any questions there. You can DM me. You can send an email straight, the number 2, thepointpod@gmail.com. Answer any questions there. The Gmail was down for a while. I think it's back now. I haven't had a chance to listen, but it is there. If you have any questions, any comments, anything, hit me up. I love the banter. I love to talk, so let me know, guys. All right, we'll talk to you soon. Thanks for listening.